Alrighty, a couple of things before we get started here, guys. First of all, my washing machine is going on in the background, so if you can hear that, I apologize. Second of all, if there's any breaking news, right, as I'm streaming this, anything else that's fairly significant to the Warriors, then I'll probably have to jump off, go write about it, and then maybe come back to a live stream or do something else later on because my writing has to take priority given that I get paid for that. Okay, let me try and summarize everything that is going on here in the last 24 hours and now most recently the last 90 minutes. So, of course, we had the huge Luka AD trade. By this point, everyone knows about that late yesterday. In the last 90 minutes, 2 hours, I was on the treadmill at the gym in the middle of a run. I get the beep on my watch, look down, check it, Shams Charania, Spurs Kings Bulls trade. I'm like, oh, goodness me, I've got to rush home now. Okay, so I've rushed home, wrote about it a little bit. I'm here now. The Warriors, it's not going good for them, everything that's happened. So basically the trade is that De'Aaron Fox gets the San Antonio Spurs to partner with Victor Wembanyama. You've got the Sacramento Kings getting Zach LaVine from the Chicago Bulls. And LaVine, to me, was probably the best trade target, best and most realistic trade target the Warriors had left in their sights. So he's now off the board. He goes to Sacramento. Chicago, who cares what they get? But basically the Spurs definitely get better. And they are currently one spot below the Warriors. And the Kings, who are one spot, I think, ahead of the Warriors in the standings, they possibly, you could almost argue they get better. Like, I don't think they're going to get that much worse going from Fox to LaVine. And they've got a couple of first-round picks out of it. So I think it's a great deal for them. Well, not a great deal necessarily, but a good deal. I think San Antonio got a really good deal. Chicago should have got way more for LaVine based on what he's been doing this season. All right, a few of you guys have commented as well. Yeah, since then, Butler has also basically rejected the Warriors. And as Jay Talk said, told him to F off because he doesn't want to sign an extension. He looks like he's trying to get all his, trying to push his way to Phoenix as much as he possibly can here before the trade deadline. So essentially in the last 90 minutes, from a Warrior perspective, there's no more Zach LaVine. There's no more Jimmy Butler. Okay. The other thing here, the other important bit of reporting here from NBA insider Mark Stein, I'll read it out word for word here, in relation to the Warriors and their pursuits of Zach LaVine and Nikola Vucevic. Mark Stein said, league sources say that the Warriors did seriously explore trade constructions that would have brought both Zach LaVine and Nikola Vucevic to the Bay Area before Golden State opted to focus on other trade pursuits. There's that, and there's also, again, Brett Siegel, how much you want to read into him, I'll let you guys think what you want to think, but he has also said that this was he's had a few here actually in the last hour. 53 minutes ago, lots to unpack with the Warriors, who attempted to make some big swings over the last 72 hours. Not only did they call the Suns last week about Kevin Durant, but they also held deep talks with the Bulls about LaVine and Vooch. Everything then shifted to Butler, which has now fallen apart. He also did, he's not reporting anything here, but obviously the Warriors have been eyeing Giannis for years, and there's also, he says there was talk about Embiid Warriors being a future possibility over the summer. I personally haven't heard anything here, but if the Mavs move Doncic because of conditioning and health issues, where does that leave Philly and Embiid? All right, so none of this is good. None of this is good for the Warriors, and look, I don't want to go way too early on this, because who knows? Something could be in the works that we have no idea about. But as things currently stand, from what we know, none of this is good for the Warriors because they are essentially asleep at the wheel. Their best and probably most realistic option in LaVine has gone. Butler, who I think we all have genuine questions and concerns about, is gone. Basically, the talks have ended there because he doesn't want to sign an extension and clearly just sounds like he wants to go to Phoenix and Phoenix only. We're not going to get Kevin Bloody Durant. That's not going to happen. The Embiid stuff, like, he's just speculating Embiid there. I don't even know if I want that to happen. Like, do you guys think anything is going on here? Or are we going to get to a point where come the trade deadline, we see either a move that gets the Warriors under the luxury tax, which would be Oh boy. I am prepared for an incredibly angry podcast or live stream if the Warriors make a trade that ducks them under the luxury tax. I am going to be that pissed. Okay, so be on the lookout for that if that happens. Otherwise, maybe they go back to Chicago surrounding Vucevic and just do Vucevic alone because obviously LaVine's no longer an option. That would just be super underwhelming to me. It'd be just super underwhelming because you've had the last 24 hours where Luka, AD, Fox, LaVine, 4 All-Stars, pretty dynamic, great players, have all been moved, and the Warriors end up with a 34-year-old Nikola Vucevic. It would be underwhelming. Not only that, but if they end up on, the last few hours before the deadline making a trade for Nikola Vucevic, you could have done that months ago. You could have done that months ago, but instead you waited, tried to see what else you could get, couldn't get anything else, and so you go back to Vucevic. When at this point the season is pretty much over anyway, and Vucevic, look, I'd still go after him, but I'm not sure he's going to lift us back into legitimate playoff contention or not. So this is the frustrating thing. The other thing I'll get to your guys' comments in a second. The other thing I do want to mention briefly here is that I think the Warriors are really starting to feel a negative impact from the Dennis Schroder trade, okay? From an off-court perspective. Forget what Dennis Schroder is doing on the court, which hasn't been great, it must be said, since he was traded here on December 15. But the Warriors right now, you talk about, so Mark Stein talks about, and Siegel, whoever else talks about the Warriors having interest in Vucevic and LaVine, getting both players. Well, you know what? That trade wouldn't have been able to happen basically until February 5, okay? Until later in the week, because it would have almost definitely required Schroeder's contract. His expiring $13 million deal would have almost certainly required that. And therefore, Schroder can't get traded till February 5. And so any deal here, if the Warriors wanted LaVine and wanted to try and keep Wiggins, then again, they would have had to wait for Schroder to become trade eligible. So the fact there was all this fantastic ideas and thoughts when Schroder got traded here that, he's trade eligible again before the deadline. That's great. If he doesn't work out, we might be able to flip him. Okay, cool. We can do that still. But in the meantime, the guys that we might actually want in trades are getting traded to other teams because the theoretical trades we could make as the Warriors, they can't happen until Feb 5 with Schroder. Right? So they're actually feeling a pretty negative impact here because you have to, you got to be patient. You got to wait till Schroeder's trade eligible. And by that point, look, Sacramento come into the mix with San Antonio because obviously they're trying to work out their Fox trade, and Chicago gets involved and says, yeah, okay, we'll send Zach LaVine to the Kings. And the Warriors are left out in the dark. Right? So there's so many different elements at play here, but I think the biggest one, there's so many different things. I think the LaVine thing hurts the most because I think he was the one that made the most sense from an on-court. He's young. The Butler thing, him rejecting the Warriors, I don't care about that. The only bad thing about that is it shows that no one really wants to come to the Warriors. That's what it shows. Okay, but Jimmy Butler specifically, I don't care. I don't really want Jimmy Butler. Okay, so that's fine. The LaVine stuff really hurts. Again, the fact that Schroeder's not eligible till February 5 to be traded, I think, is really hurting the Warriors. If we end up with Vucevic, then that's just pretty underwhelming, and it's a deal that could have been done months ago. I don't know. All right, that abroad guy says, Butler talks have been shelved, so what's next? Jay, as I said before, says, not going to lie, Jimmy telling us to F off, damn, you made me crash out. Thendick says, watching all the teams doing trades is depressing. And Western Conference teams. Lakers, whatever you want to say about the Mavericks, they just made the biggest move, arguably in NBA history, in trading Luka Doncic. You've got the Kings, okay, making the best, I think, out of a bad De'Aaron Fox situation. The Spurs getting De'Aaron Fox. What's it mean for Chris Paul? Okay, he's doing the All-Star event with Wemby, so he's not going to get traded by the sounds of it, but he's now gone back to – he's going to go back to a bench role, I suppose, with the unless they're going to start – they can't start Fox and CP3, can they? That's weird. Who cares? It's not a Warrior thing. I don't know. I've just mentioned him because he's a former Warrior, obviously. I mean, this all started, you could argue, when they just decided to waive Chris Paul and not get anything for him, not get Zach LaVine right then and there. Like, seriously. The interesting part, okay, there's just so many different things here. The interesting part about the Stein report about LaVine and Vucevic is that would have required Andrew Wiggins. So clearly the Warriors are at least willing to have conversations about Andrew Wiggins. It would have taken, you can say whatever you want, that LaVine-Vucevic trade, that would have been huge because it would have drastically changed the Warrior roster. Drastically. Because they would have had to send out, unless it was Wiggins and Draymond, which is just, that wouldn't have happened. Wiggins, Shroder, Payton, Looney, Hield, Anderson. Probably all those guys gone in that particular trade to make the salaries work. Probably all of them. Okay? And maybe you were still able to keep your young guys, Kuminga, Podziemski, Moody. Maybe Moody was part of it. Who knows with his poison pill contract. I don't know. The team probably would have been left over with. Would have been Steph, LaVine, Kuminga maybe at the 3 now with Vucevic at the 5 and Draymond at the 4. And you still got like Pods, Moody, TJD, Quentin Post, Lindy Waters, Guy Santos, and whatever else you get in the trade, whatever else you sign in buyout options. Like, I don't mind that team. I don't mind that team, if I'm being honest. I think a Steph, LaVine, Kuminga, Draymond, Vooch starting 5 is better than what the Warriors have now. So, I don't know. There's so many different things here. Knox says, we are cooked. Then Nick says, Butler refusing an extension means he doesn't want to be a Warrior. East Bay says, Dunleavy has no relationships in the league. We can't trade anyone because we love them or they are untouchable kids. Trade all these clowns, get guys that can play with Steph. My thinking has like just drastically shifted as a result of this Luka trade. If the Dallas Mavericks can trade Luka Doncic, you can damn near do anything. You can do anything. And so the Warriors thinking, do we want to trade GP2 and Loon? Because, it would hurt our culture and those guys are champions. Loon's won 3 titles with this franchise. GP2 was so big in our 2022 title run. I don't care. I do not care. There is no way you're having those legitimate conversations about, we might need to keep hold of these guys when the Dallas Mavericks just traded Luka freaking Doncic. Are you being serious right now? There is no one on this Warrior roster outside Steph Curry who is untouchable. Okay? I don't know. It's just frustrating. I'm hoping something's still in the works, maybe, over the next couple of days. There's still guys out there. I think Cam Johnson's going to get a mention. Let me just get through your comments again, guys. Then Nick says the Luka trade should be illegal. Sai says, on to the next season then. They had an option to trade for both LaVine and Vooch. Mike is a sensible guy, but geez, at this point, no trade is going to save us, going by what the Warriors are willing to sacrifice. Okay, so I want to know further report. I need to hear further reporting on what the actual conversations were between the Warriors and the Bulls. Because if it was laid out like I just did, where it's Wiggins and all the like expirings and Buddy Hield and Kyle Anderson, like all mid-tier salaries for LaVine, Vooch, and the Warriors had to give up a first-round pick or 2 to make it happen, then I'm probably going to be pretty frustrated that it didn't happen. But if like Chicago wanted multiple first-round picks and or like Kuminga and Podziemski and stuff like that, then, okay, I can see the hesitation. But at this point, like, you just can't keep rolling out what you've got, okay? I don't know. Eastman says, good point. Could have made that trade months ago. The Bulls got trashed for LaVine. Warriors could have got him for Looney or Moody in a pick. Yeah, I think that's in relation to Vucevic. And you could have got him months ago. You could have got him. It would have hurt your flexibility a little bit. But if you wanted to go make another big trade, you still would have had the Wiggins salary. You wouldn't have given up. Okay, maybe Chicago wanted a first. Like, but why is it that like Chicago want a first round pick for Nikola Vucevic, and then in this trade where they send out Zach LaVine, who is a significantly better player, right? He's a significantly better player. He's younger. He's surely got so much more value than Nikola Vucevic. Like, he has to, based on what he's been averaging 25 points a game this season on like 45% from 3. It's stupid. The Bulls got Zach Collins, Trey Jones, Kevin Huerter, and their own 2025 pick back. They got 1 first-round pick. Zach Collins is a scrub. Kevin Huerter is a scrub. Trey Jones, okay, maybe nice backup point guard for your future. Cool. It doesn't matter, okay? You've already got Lonzo Ball and Josh Giddey and a bunch of point guards on the roster anyway. You got 1 first-round pick, and it's not even anyone else's. It's your own. You got your own first-round pick back for Zach LaVine, essentially. And yet you want the Warriors first-round, a first-round pick from the Warriors for Nikola Vucevic. Chicago, what are you doing? I don't know. Steve says at this point it's Kelly Olynyk and they should go get Cam Johnson. It's going to be some minor move where we're like, yeah, you know what? It might actually help them. But when all this other blockbuster huge stuff is going around, it's just so underwhelming. Fendick says Draymond should be traded. Again, I've been saying like, oh, they're not going to trade Draymond, but the Mavs just traded Luka for goodness sake. Steve says this will at least get them in the plane. Who are you referring to there? The Kings or the Spurs? Probably both. They're probably both going to end up above the Warriors. Connor says at this point, just getting Vucevic would be a major disappointment. It's a major disappointment because of, again, the blockbuster stuff that's been going on the last 24 hours and because you could have made that trade months ago. East Bay says, I agree. I would trade Draymond if I could. The LaVine stuff hurts because they got trash for him. Jay says Vooch was never going to move the needle. Losing LaVine is a death sentence for our season and Steph's knees. That's well put. A death sentence for our season and Steph's knees. MG says Vucevic and Cam Johnson, that's all that's left. Well, unless there's like something behind the scenes that the Warriors are desperately trying to work on, but I'm not optimistic. MG says anything at this point moves the needle for me that the product on the floor is not working. Andrew says Mike Dunleavy Jr. is ruining the Warriors team as a general manager for this team. He needs to be fired. MJ says not taking a risk is in fact saying F Curry. Berserk Monk says Cam Johnson. Nets just have to be realistic and realize no one is giving 2 firsts for Cam Johnson. Yeah, obviously if you can get Cam Johnson and keep Kuminga and Wiggins, then you probably go for it. And also probably dependent on how, like, these Warriors first round picks that we're talking about, there's a big difference between whether it's this year's first round pick or if it's like 2031 when Steph's clearly out of the league and Draymond's no longer on the team and all that kind of stuff. So the valuation on the Warriors first round picks, I think, changes drastically based on which ones you're actually giving up. Sendex says, I just hope we don't go for LeBron. I don't want to wake up tomorrow knowing we trade half the team for a 40-year-old. I'd do it. Stuff it. I'd do it. It doesn't sound like it's going to happen, though. MG says, maybe protected 2025 first, no 2031 first for Cam. I'd be fine with that. What if that? But, yeah. I don't know. It's really hard for me to get frustrated, but then, like, turn down. Like, I'm really contradicting myself if I'm getting super frustrated about the Warriors not doing anything, but then you guys start suggesting trades, and I'm like, oh, no, I wouldn't do that. Because when I read that trade suggestion, I'm just like, well, what if we suck in 2031? There's no protections on that, and we just give up a top 5 pick to the Nets for Cam Johnson. Do we really want to do that? Berserk Monk says Draymond for LeBron. That'd be so funny. That'd be hilarious. MJ says there's always a way to get your damn picks back. Everyone does it in a rebuild. Bulls got their first rounder back for LaVine. Bulls podcast thinks LaVine's contract would make them give up picks. So that would have been the case in the offseason, but like he's had such a good year that I think they just haven't got enough back. Then next, I don't get why the organization is hesitant. We're literally the 11th seed. No one on this team should be safe. Yeah, like, so here's the thing. If you trade like a first and maybe like a second protected first or something for LaVine and Vucevic and just literally ship out half your team, ship out Wiggins, ship out all the mid-tier guys, like, you've just drastically changed your team, but I don't think, again, it always comes down to, okay, the Warriors clearly care about the future. They clearly care about having flexibility to do something else in the future. And if you go and make that trade, then does it actually really hurt your flexibility? I don't think it does. It drastically changes your team. And I think from a fan standpoint, that's just what we want to see. We just want to see something different. I don't think any of us are screaming out saying, you need to make a move to get back into championship contention. Okay. I think that's often been the case, but I think at this point, it's like, can we just do something notable, something significant, please? Like that's how low the expectations have gotten to, right? We're not out here saying you got to trade for Giannis, you got to trade for KD, all this stuff. It's just like, can we do something, please? And so you could have made that trade, I think, with the Bulls for both players. It would have drastically changed your team, would have provided a different and probably better product, I think. And you know what? I think it would have limited your flexibility too much. I don't think. So, Berserk Monk says the Spurs fleeced the Kings and the Bulls. Maybe I'm just like overrating LaVine too much, but I think the fact that the Kings were able to like turn around and swap Fox for LaVine and get first round picks out of it, I don't mind that from their perspective. A few names here from Righty F says Kobe White, Ingram, Zion. I was about to say Simmons. Thought you might have been referring to Ben Simmons, but I'm pretty sure you're referring to Anthony Simons there. PG, Cam Johnson, maybe LeBron, maybe Turner, all some level of availability. Yeah, don't think LeBron is. The others possibly. So Mr. Level says Zion and Ingram or bust. Okay, so Zion's probably my guy. It's not perfect. It's not perfect because the Warriors need a two guard and they need a center, and Zion's neither. He's just another forward, and you've got Kuminga and Draymond already. You know, you've got Wiggins. But in terms of a significant difference, getting someone who could make a drastic difference, like I think Zion's the guy, right? So he would be, if they pulled off a Zion Williamson trade, then a lot of what I've said on this stream so far, I'll go back on and I'll apologize, right? Okay, because I actually think Zion would be good. It'd be different at least. It would give a high level of optimism because you're saying, okay, we just traded for this 20. It's basically the Lakers. Now, I'm not comparing Luka to Zion, but the Lakers just traded for a 25-year-old guy who can be the face of their franchise for the next 10, 12 years. Now, the security of that, I should say, is very high. Like Luka is going to be the face of your franchise for the next 10, 12 years. Zion, he could be that guy, right? He could be the face of your franchise for the next 10, 12 years. I'm not saying he absolutely would be because we know the conditioning issues and the injury issues and stuff like that. We appreciate that. And they are far more significant than Luka, and Zion's never got anywhere near Luka in terms of, caliber of NBA player. But it would at least provide this idea of, hey, you know what? Post Steph, we might actually be all right. And not only that, but right now we also get a pretty good player if we can get him fit and healthy. Okay. And the other thing with Zion is this season might be a wrap anyway. So, like, does it really matter if he's injured over the second half of the season? Probably not. Like, you've still got him under contract for multiple years, and you just try your best in the offseason to get him fit and firing and up and about and ready for a big 2025-26 season. Berserk Monk says Spurs didn't give up a single rotational player for Fox and gave up a fake first, a weak second, and one good 2031 pick from the T-Wolves. Yeah, great deal. San Antonio, good. San Antonio are legit good when it comes to their front office stuff. Now, they got incredibly lucky with Wemby. Like this, I mean, if they go on here and win multiple championships or whatever else, like it's going to come down to the fortune of getting Victor Wembanyama, right? But the moves they're making around that, I think, have been excellent. And they've still got more moves to make. They've still got like 8 first-round picks. Oh, my goodness. The next says, we need a center and another scorer. Robbie says, do you think Kobe White and Vooch is a possibility? I'm just really interested to so this Warriors-Chicago stuff just has fallen through, obviously. So what's the relationship like there? Are they going to be able to get back into trade negotiations on a different deal? Kobe White and Vooch is interesting. I don't think I'd do... if you were going to get LaVine and Vooch, then I probably would have been okay with giving up Wiggins. I probably would have been okay with that. It certainly would have been a defensive downgrade, but again, at this point, it's something different. So I could live with it. I'm not sure I'd be giving up Wiggins for Kobe White and Vooch. Now, they make $32, $33 million combined. If you can get there. You can get there without Wiggins. The other thing with Zion is that Zion's on 36, 37. And, a couple of the last podcast episode I did was about LaVine and the idea of the Warriors giving up potentially 5 players, essentially, for Zach LaVine and keeping Wiggins and keeping Draymond. So could you just go to New Orleans and say, here's Schroeder's $13 million expiring. Here's $9 million of Gary Payton II. Here's $8 million of Kevon Looney. Those three guys, and maybe, one, maybe it's Kyle Anderson or Buddy Hield, right? So you give up one of those guys, and you basically said in New Orleans, you can get out of the Zion business. Here's 3 expiring contracts you don't have to pay moving forward. You get one guy who's under contract for a couple more seasons, and we give you a first-round pick. Okay? And you can get out of the Zion business. And the Warriors get Zion, and they keep Wiggins, they keep Draymond, they keep Kuminga. I don't know. Would the Warriors even want to do that financially with Kuminga's free agency coming up? Who knows? Danik says Zion can't stay fit. Is he really worth it? I think surely the Warriors are at a point of desperation now where it's like, you're not going to get this perfect option. You're not going to get Giannis. You're not going to get KD. Meanwhile, Steph's nearly 37 years old. I can understand them, considering the future. I absolutely can. And that's why, I'm happy that Jimmy Butler is not coming to the Warriors. I didn't necessarily want Jimmy Butler. He's 35. He's injury prone. Okay. Is he even that good anymore? So I don't have an issue with that. But Zion, okay, yes, he can't stay fit. But he's also 24, 25. And you could actually have a pretty legitimate future with him, potentially. Now, again, potentially because there are the injury concerns. Mr. Level says, Warriors training staff can fix him. New Orleans staff is awful. There is, I don't know if you remember, Dyson Daniels a couple of months ago said something along the lines, I'm paraphrasing here, but he basically said something along the lines of, there's something in the water in New Orleans. That franchise is cursed. DeJounte Murray just went down with a torn Achilles. What is going on in New Orleans? Does the Murray thing adjust their thinking a little bit? What are they doing with Ingram? Okay. I don't know. That the Zion thing to me presents a real opportunity because it would also be the classic buy low scenario. I'm not advocating for the Warriors to give up legit assets for Zion, but go to them and say, hey, here's some expirings. Here's a first, maybe a first in 2031, so the Pelicans can kind of talk themselves into, Steph's going to be out of the league at that point, so that pick might be good. And the Warriors can also talk themselves into, now we've got Zion, so that 2031 pick, we're actually pretty confident it won't be, a top 5, top 10 pick or anything. Try and talk them into just getting out of the Zion experience. Saying, we'll take him. Here's a first, here's expirings. I'm not saying they'll do it, but you've got to, that's something you've got to consider, don't you? The next says, it's on the Warriors, to be fair. We failed to develop the youngsters, wave CP3 and trade a pool instead of Draymond. Hard to argue. Berserk Monk says, Lakers have done way worse deals, develop nobody and get rewarded with Luka. Make it make sense. It's actually true. How have they did the Westbrook trade, which was awful. And then within a few years, in fairness, they developed Austin Reeves. They developed Max Christie to a point where I actually think he was a legit thing that Dallas wanted in the trade. Again, giving up Luka Doncic and getting back Max Christie that's something. They obviously got AD as well, but their development, I think, at the Lakers has been. You could say Jalen Hood-Schifino, absolute nightmare pick there, where they could have had Pods, Jaime Hackers, Cam Whitmore. They were the following 3 picks. So, yeah, it swings and roundabouts. Mr. Level says the training staff in New Orleans is not only NBA stuff, but weird stuff with NFL training staff with the Saints. So maybe something going on in the water. Okay, yeah, I've got no idea about the NFL. So, yeah. Xenix says, would you trade Wiggins and Draymond if we would get something legit? E-Space says, I would love to have Zion. Yeah, Zion's the one. Zion's the one for me that I think, again, if you can almost take him off the hands of the Pelicans with giving up minimal assets, I take the risk. I would definitely take the risk. And Decker, going back to your question, would you trade Wiggins and Draymond if we would get something legit? What's something legit? Honestly, what's something legit? KD? Suns aren't doing it. Unfortunately, Suns are not doing it. If you could get KD and basically be left with Steph and KD, maybe, but they're not. Suns aren't doing that. Eastbay says, when Zion is right, he's amazing, brother. He absolutely. There's no doubt about Zion Williamson's talent. And that is why, like, if it's a buy low situation, you do that. Like, you gotta do something. And I think that's like a really high upside move for you. Not only for the short term and getting Steph like a second star scorer, but also a move where it's like, hey, just like the Lakers did with Luka, it's like, hey, we're setting ourselves up for the post. They just set themselves up for the post-LeBron era. Zion could be a part of the Warriors looking at the post-Curry era, which we know. We know by the fact that they're continuing to hold on to these young guys and their future picks. We know they care about that. We know they care about the post-Curry era. And yet all their picks that they've taken to the draft, Wiseman, Kuminga, Moody, all that, all the picks they still have in their stash, what have they got really to show for it? They've got no singular piece that you can look at and say, that's the face of your franchise after Steph Curry. Okay? Is Kuminga that? I just don't think Kuminga's that player. Kuminga could turn into he could potentially turn into an all-star. Is he an absolute face of your franchise? You are a good playoff team consistently. I don't think he's that guy. I'm really high on Jonathan Kuminga. I'm not that high. Peace and Pocket says, would you go for Zion for 3 first plus the expiring contracts? 3 first. Yeah, where do you draw the line? Depends what protections were on them as well. And as I said before, there's a big difference between the Warriors 2027 pick and 2031 pick. 2027 Steph might still be around and playing reasonable basketball, and 2031, who knows what's going on. So there's different. Yeah, I'd probably give them one unprotected, and maybe the other 2 have got to be top 5 or top 10 protected. But then by doing that, you're also saying, well, we're just removing our flexibility. This is kind of our all-in move, aside from, I guess, you keep the young guys. And so you hope they have some value if you want to make another deal down the line. And the other issue, so the thing with Zion is, okay, so if you got him for expirings, all of a sudden you got Zion, Kuminga, and Draymond, that would just make absolute 0 sense from a basketball standpoint. So at this point, it's who cares? Just get the talent in the door, probably, because as Steve said the other day, talent wins in this league. If you don't have the talent, you can't do anything. So maybe you're just all right, we'll get Zion now and we'll figure Kuminga and Draymond out later. Or maybe there's another trade before the deadline. Chris said, I'm in the go young camp. I'm intrigued by the Mathurin rumors. At this point, the Steph era is over. I just don't see any scenario where we can land another superstar without losing half the roster. Berserk Mike says, Grizzlies just whooped the Bucks. Maybe Giannis suddenly feels hopeless. It's hilarious how actual on-court basketball, just no one cares at the moment. I wrote about the Mavs getting blown out and Clay having a disastrous performance in the wake of the Luka trade, and I watched most of that game. But aside from that, just the on-court stuff doesn't really matter at the moment, does it? The Beast says, I have a feeling the Warriors aren't going to make any moves before the deadline, and we're going to be a cooked playing team at best. I actually think if we don't make a move here, I actually think we're not going to make the playing tournament at all. Legit. I actually think if you don't make a move, this is dead set what I would do if I was the Warriors. If you're Mike Dunleavy Jr. and you do not make a move, okay, or you don't get at least Vucevic, okay, you're not a buyer. If the only move you make is selling to get under the luxury tax, then I would sit Steph and Draymond the rest of the year. I would sit Steph and Draymond at the rest of the year, because I would then say to myself at that point, we're not doing anything. We're not, the West is too good. We're what's our best possible result? Okay, our best possible result is maybe make the playoffs and lose in the first round, maybe. Okay, from that point. And so are we better off trying and doing that and putting more miles on Steph's legs, or are we actually better off pulling back and saying, whoa, okay, Steph, sit the rest of the season, Draymond, sit the rest of the season, young guys can play, hopefully develop, see if we really want to offer Kuminga big money. And you know what? Maybe you finish 12th. They're 11th now. Maybe you finish 12th in the conference, get like top 10 odds in the lottery and all of a sudden get lucky in the lottery and you walk away with Cooper Flag or like at least a top 5 pick. Like literally, maybe that's what you do. And then if all of a sudden you've got a top 5 pick and then trade scenarios come back into play during the offseason, then all of a sudden, like you've got way more flexibility with what you can do. You got this really big chip. So if they're not prepared to make a move as a buyer, then pull out. Literally just rest Steph and Draymond and tank the rest of the season. I'm being dead serious. I'm being dead set serious on that. What's the point? What's the point of pushing Steph out there, having him fight through knee, thumb issues, okay, for a team that at its absolute peak, like we have just heard Steve Curry's now questioning whether this team has enough talent. If your head coach is questioning whether the team's got enough talent to compete as a legitimate playoff team, then there's a fair chance you don't have enough talent, right? Because the head coach is probably going to be the last person to come to that realization. Okay, so if that's the case, and you're not a buyer now in the next couple of days, tank. Dead set tank. MG says, I don't understand everyone's infatuation with Zion. I'm out on him. Eastbay says, yeah, I would get Zion to counter the Luka move. Interesting. That'd be the Warriors like version of that. No one's saying Zion's Luka, but they're like the same age. Zion is incredibly talented. You get him right, maybe he's the face of your franchise for the next decade plus after Steph. Eastbay says the Warriors acting like they did all 6 of those picks is the most overreactionary statement ever. You don't need all those picks. Move some and get someone. Berserk Monk says if the Warriors don't do anything, forget about the play. Spurs will catapult ahead of us, and the Kings have already smacked us without Fox. Brody says we ain't doing nothing. Ghost says Kevin Vooch, we should be okay. Eastbay says Kuminga can go if he wants. This is goofy. Dan Decker says Miles Turner, Aaron Neesmith would improve our front court. I love Miles Turner. Brody says Steph to the Rockets for Reed Shepard, Jabari Smith Jr., Fred VanVleet, and 3 first-round picks. Can't happen, unfortunately. Cannot happen. Given Steph is trade ineligible. Maybe in the offseason. Knox says sit Steph and Dre and let the young guys develop and see who we keep. Yep, that would be my plan if we're not buyers. Robbie says Miles Turner and Nemhard would be interesting. Sean Tan says, from an NBA neutral perspective, I seriously don't know what the Warriors front office are even doing. That's what we're all here for as Warrior fans, to question the exact same thing. Shavant says, what can Warriors front office do? Trades are tough. It's just hilarious. Like this franchise, this front office is hilarious. Like just telling everyone that trades are tough. I'm just going back through my Twitter feed because I just want to see if anything else is going on at the moment. Yeah, like saying to everyone, "Oh, trades are tough." The Mavericks just traded Luka Doncic. Like, honestly, they just traded Luka Doncic, and you're telling me trades are hard. And then the other piece of this, which is so confusing to me, because so Siegel also reported that now hearing other smaller moves are on the table for Warriors after their talks for LaVine and Vooch fell through. I didn't even know what smaller moves are. Like Kelly Olynyk, Bobby Portis's name's been floated about. But anyway, the hilarious thing about that is there was reports for weeks, right? I sat here a week ago and said, okay, the best possible case scenario is just go get Vooch. Okay, just go get him. Okay, and whatever. That's at least something. Okay, and then in the days after, like in recent days here, they've actually re-engaged with Chicago and Miami on LaVine and Butler. And now all of a sudden, all the fans are like, oh, we're actually back in on a big move. Oh, right, really? And now, in the last 24 hours, it's like the front office, Mike Dunleavy Jr. has just been like, psych, no, we're not actually into a big move. Smaller moves these. We actually didn't really have any interest in either Butler or LaVine. And I just really want to know, like, Stein's report, and I guess the one thing that you got to try and hold on to some optimism and some hope here from a fan perspective is that the Warriors have opted to focus on other trade pursuits. And I just want to know what those trade pursuits are. Okay, what is the... I don't know. It's just really frustrating, I think, to see, the Spurs, De'Aaron Fox was, it was reported he became available basically for trade last week. like within a week ago. No one knew Luka was available, and the Lakers just get him out of nowhere, just pluck him, with no one having any idea that was going on. Okay, the frustrating thing is those things can happen so quickly, and yet the Warriors seemingly spend weeks with other teams discussing Larry Markkinen with the Jazz, Paul George with the Clippers, Jimmy Butler with the Heat, Chicago with Vucevic and LaVine, and yet they have all this time and nothing happens. Not one thing happens. So how it's hard to compute that you could have all this time to go and just make some kind of move, make some kind of trade, and yet these other teams are actually like they're all in. And it's when I mean all in, it's like they make these moves almost instantly. Okay, that player becomes available. Like the Spurs are just like, okay, Fox is available. He wants to come to us. We're making it happen. Okay, the Kings are like, oh, all right, that's just De'Aaron wants to leave. Okay, how can we make the best of a bad situation right now in the next couple of days? They go and get LaVine. Okay, and yet the Warriors have weeks and weeks and months to discuss trades with other teams and cannot do anything. Mr. Level says Zion and Ingram, get both. I suppose you could if you could you? I suppose Zion and Ingram would make about the same as LaVine and Vooch. I think that's a bit. Maybe they make a bit more, so it would be slightly difficult to get Zion and Ingram, unless you're also trading Draymond. And at this point, it's like, why the hell not? It's just like, I don't know. Sean 10 says they're just not being bold enough to make a risky trade. I don't know. Some of these, I don't even know if some of these are risky. Like, again, you could have traded for Vucevic 3 months ago, and what's the risk? I don't even know what the risk is. Like, you could have tried to get LaVine. Like, the Bulls literally just got their own pick back for LaVine. That is all they got. So Warriors, I suppose you could just say, oh, well, LaVine's making $40+ million, so inhibits their flexibility from a salary perspective going forward. Okay, but from like a trade standpoint, okay, giving up one first-round pick for Zach LaVine, is it really that much of a risk? For a guy averaging 25 points, shooting 45% from three. Sean says, Warrior owners don't want to pay the big money this season. Yeah, there's a chance that we just try and duck the luxury tax here. And if that's the case, I'll be pissed. And two, you better start tanking. You start tanking in that scenario. That abroad guy says, I don't think Kerr likes BI. Yeah, his form at the World Cup and how much playing time he was like, Ingram's just not a Warrior guy for me. Brody says Bob Myers would have had us LeBron, Luka, Giannis, and Michael Jordan by now. Yeah, you might be gassing up Bob Myers a little bit too much there, maybe. I don't know. I suppose you could say, well, he got KD over the line. He got DeMarcus Cousins, which was shocking. In terms of like shock moves, obviously this Luka thing to the Lakers just outdoes everything. But like Boogie signing with the Warriors in 2018, that was a shock. Shavant says, can't trade Dre, won't trade Wiggs. Where do you get the salary for a big name? Well, by the sounds of like Stein's reporting about the Warriors seriously exploring a deal for LaVine and Vucevic, like that would have required Wiggins. And so to me, it sounds like they are willing to trade him. Renk Kuno says nobody wants to play for Kerr, and with Draymond, that's why big trades are not going to happen unless these two get TF out of here. I don't want to swear. I think swearing on here just has a few issues with advertising and stuff like that. I want to make a few bucks. Maddie says, I still think there's a chance for LeBron. Yeah, things would have to drastically change, and we've heard reports today that he's happy to stay with the Lakers and looking forward to playing with Luka. Bree says, why didn't the Warriors go after Fox? Warriors are too afraid to make any real moves. Yeah, the Fox thing would have been interesting. They should have. They should have gone after Fox. I think it's just a case of Fox was basically going to tell him and Clutch would tell any team basically, like Butler's done now. Butler's just told the Warriors that, hey, well, I'm not signing an extension with you beyond this season. I'm going to opt out and become a free agent and I'll leave for nothing. So no point trading for me now. I think the same thing would have been happened happening behind the scenes with Fox, where it would have been a case of Clutch telling everyone but the Spurs that, hey, he wants to go to San Antonio and free agency in 2026. You trade for him now. That's not going to change anything. So I think that's the case there. Jay Sean says Zion and Ingram. You're the second person to say Zion and Ingram, both of them. That'd be interesting. Maybe one of them. I don't think it'd be both. Yeah, Mr. Level said Zion and Ingram or bust as well. Sean 10 says Mavs and Lakers make probably one of the biggest risky trades. They have the guts to do that for their sake. Mavs want a defense and Lakers get the next superstar that could help for their future. Yeah, I don't think it was really a risk for the Lakers. The biggest risk I think the Lakers made, now obviously, okay, yeah, their defense stinks, but just getting Luka for the next 12 years, I don't care about the defensive part of it. Like, I just think you have to make that trade. I think the biggest risk from their standpoint was not telling LeBron, and then the potential that LeBron gets pissed about it. But if LeBron gets pissed about it, well, you still got Luka for the next 10, 12 years. Like, I don't know. There's not much of a risk there. I just thought it took some balls from them to do it without LeBron's knowledge. Mr. Level says, I'm trading Draymond too. Sean Dan says that the Warriors, their front office is too cautious. Joe Shorten says Ayton and Cam Johnson. I don't think I want Ayton on $30 million. I know the Warriors need a center. He's much more offensively skilled than anyone they've got, but no, I don't think so. Cam Johnson, possibly. Michael Porter Jr. I don't think I'd give up too much in the way of assets for Michael Porter Jr. That contract is not great. This is a good one. East Bay says, one thing is for sure. I don't want to hear later Dre talking about they had a trade, but he didn't like it. Yeah. Because that's what we had with, it sounds like the Markkanen stuff, where the Warriors might have had a trade for Markkanen and Draymond was like, no, that's a bad trade. Don't do that trade, even though it'll make us better in the short term. Robbie says, is John Collins still an option? Possibly. I don't hate John Collins, but again, I suppose if it's just expirings, I don't know. After the whole Markkanen thing, it's, a Utah that really good to deal with. They're probably going to want a genuine asset for John Collins. Val says he got us. This is, I think, in relation to Bob Myers. He got us Wiggins for the one ring. Now it's time to trade Wiggs for another ring. Yeah, possibly. Then it says the Mavs only talked to the Lakers, would have gotten more if other teams knew. There, that's the shocking part of it. The only thing I can surmise out of that is that they kind of looked around the league and said, "Who do we really want?" Okay. And because they if you're offering Luka Doncic, you could basically get whatever you want, essentially. So they probably determined, they looked around the league, who do we want? And they probably determined they want Anthony Davis. And therefore, that's why they only went to the Lakers about it. Because they thought, okay, that's the guy we want anyway. We're not really interested in all the future first-round picks that the Spurs or the Nets or Utah or whoever else could offer us. Nook says, I don't know if there is a trade that moves the needle, probably 7th seed at most. 7th seed would probably be a good result from here. Barry says, LeBron doesn't want to leave DFS, Luka and Vando. Pelinka said he's going to build a winning team this season. Yeah, I don't think the LeBron stuff's happening. Val says, is it because of Kerr that the Stars don't want to commit long term? Well, Steve himself is only under contract for another one more year after this. Eastbay says Kerr could coach his butt off, not going to matter with this group. Street says trade Wiggs and Draymond. Renkuno says changing the coach would improve us so much. To be honest, get us Mike Brown, says Val. Yeah, the coaching stuff's weird. I just don't think there's no point getting into the coaching stuff because that's not going to happen. Maybe it might happen in the off season, maybe depending on how the rest of the season goes. But I don't actually see Steph Curry playing under another coach, but Steve Kerr, unless he gets traded, and he's not going to get traded unless he asks for a trade, and that can't happen now. Jay Sean, Time Lord and Cam Johnson. Time Lord would just be so underwhelming. Barry says the Spurs and Lakers got better. The West got tougher. Yep. The Mavericks, as constructed, I think are still better than the Warriors. Now, you could say that the Warriors now have a better long-term outlook than the Mavericks, you'd argue, but I think the Mavs as constructed are still better than the Warriors. And dead set, I'm not sure the Kings are going to be any worse trading Fox for LaVine. Like, they dead set could be better. Now, I'm not going to say they're going to be good, but as in, are they going to be better than the Warriors still? Probably. Sean Tan says, Ayton is not playing like a $30 million player unless he's not really living up to the expectation as the former number 1 overall pick. Yeah, I'm not doing that. If I'm going for a former number 1 overall pick making over $30 million, it's Zion. Okay, because he's still got the high upside as a legit superstar. Mr. Level says OKC would have offered a good package for Luka. What do you reckon that would have entailed? Do I want Luka and Shea on the same team if I'm OKC? Would they have offered Chet, Jalen Williams? Because again, like I just don't think Dallas would have, like, OKC could have given Dallas all their picks, and I'm pretty sure the Mavericks would have still said no. Like, we still actually want to compete now. We want to get a much better defense. And that's what they've done with Anthony Davis. Mr. Level, Jalen Williams, Dort, Wallace, Wiggins, and all the picks. Now you have Shea, Luka, and Chet. When you say Jay, you mean the good Jalen Williams, not the bad Jalen Williams. Good Jalen Williams. I think you've spelled it like the bad Jalen Williams. So just clarify that. Cheesehead says Bucks will never trade Giannis to Golden State. No, I mean, what we saw with Dallas trading, Luka to the Lakers, like, never say never, but I don't think the Warriors should be waiting around, rejecting other trades and not being interested in other trades because of this pipe dream that they're going to get Giannis in 3 years' time. Cool. Steph will be 40. Mint. Trade Dunleavy. If only. No, I'm not. Some of Mike's stuff since he's become GM, particularly the drafting stuff, has been good. But yeah, I mean, the inactivity here is what's really become frustrating. Barry says the Bucks aren't doing something stupid after seeing the Mavs trade. Mr. Level says if Luka played with Kyrie, he can play with Shea. Yeah, possibly. Jay says, hello, mate. So what do you think now? What will be happening now? Well, the Warriors are in big trouble. They are in big trouble because I think their best option was LaVine. He's no longer available. Butler, I'm happy they're not going to get Butler. I'm happy that Butler's actually rejected the Warriors, but I'm not happy about that kind of signifying that no star player actually wants to come here. Like, Jimmy Butler is clearly, I think it's more so probably he just wants to go to Phoenix, but the fact that he's looked at the Warriors and said, you guys have got Steph Curry, and I just don't have no interest in re-signing there in Fred. And I think the same thing happened with Siakam last year. This dead set same thing happened with Siakam, where he said to the Warriors, yeah, I'm not re-signing. So this is not a great look. Not a great look. Mr. Level says, yeah, good Jalen Williams. Okay. Is that, yeah, if you're giving up the good Jalen Williams, Dort, Wallace, Wiggins, and all the picks, said like I would have done that if I was Dallas. Well, I would have done that in preference of the Lakers trade. But anyway, it's all a moot point now. Robbie P says, would the Jazz be open to trading Sexton? Yeah, probably, but it's Colin Sexton. Like, really? I'm not. This is nothing against you for suggesting it. I'm just when all these all-star players are getting. Sorry, I'm just checking my watch because I got a notification. It's from my brother, so nothing important. Yeah, like all these all-star players getting flown about in trades, and if we end up with Colin Sexton or Vucevic, it's like, Game Ref 2P, bringing some optimism to the chat. I like it. Guys, relax. Dunleavy is cooking. He says Ingram, Zion are available. Boz says Kerr and Draymond are reasons that the players don't want to come to the Warriors. Yeah, that's been a bit of a theme here. That abroad guy, Ainge is going to Ainge on any Jazz deal. Jay says, do you know the Shroder trade situation? Is he eligible to be traded now or day of the deadline? No, so he's not trade eligible until the day before the deadline. And this is what I think he's actually, and I mentioned this before, you obviously weren't in the stream yet, which is fine. I'll reiterate, I think they're actually being negatively impacted here by the fact that Shroder is not trade eligible, because all these deals, like the LaVine stuff, probably most likely the Butler stuff, like all these things, they would have likely needed Dennis Schroder in the deal, and therefore a deal can't get done here until February 5 at the earliest. And in the meantime, Chicago are like, oh, well, okay, we'll go out and see what else we can do. And all of a sudden, this three-way deal happens between them, the Spurs, and the Kings. And LaVine's on his way to Sacramento. And so I think we all looked at the Schroder thing and thought, great, yeah, he can be traded again before the deadline. That gives us flexibility. Well, it kind of doesn't, because it gives us a narrow window of when that flexibility actually is. And before we've even reached that narrow window, Luke has been traded, AD's been traded, Fox has been traded, LaVine's been traded. So, and there's still like 48, 72 hours until that window even opens for the Warriors in terms of moving Schroder. The Beast, I believe other teams are willing to even take less than a treat if that means not furthering the Warriors dynasty in any fashion. That 10-year run builds a lot of hate across the league. I think you have a good point. I've mentioned that before. I think that's a good point. Street Story says, get Curry another superstar player. Rancuno says, get Giannis. Giannis just wants to play with Steph. What a dream, but it's a dream that's probably never going to come to reality. And in the meantime, the Warriors are not doing anything because of this pipe dream. Like, if we had to put a percentage on it, what are other chances that Giannis asks out? And not only that, and he wants to be traded to the Warriors. And that the Warriors have the ammunition to actually get him as opposed to other teams. Like, it's just such a far-fetched idea. Now, Luka ever going to the Lakers was such a far-fetched idea. So again, you got to put that into context and say, okay, well, maybe that can actually happen. But really, it's like 0.1% chance. So what? We're not going to make any other deal because of this thing that's a 0.1% of a chance. I don't know. Arati says, if we are willing to trade Draymond, we should be able to acquire Kobe, White, Zion, and Turner. It would take a few picks and good young talent, but Kobe is a certified bucket. Turner is a two-way menace. Geez, all three. That'd be something substantial, wouldn't it? Jay says the Luka trade showed us that we don't know anything going on behind the scenes, so he might be in for a surprise. That's my optimism. My optimism is Mike is actually on the phone right now, cooking something up that we have no idea about, star level player, and that something crazy happens here. Something crazy. That's the only thing that we can hold on to as fans. And obviously the Luka thing does give us more optimism that something like that could be in the works. Because usually you get to this point and you'd say, okay, the guys that have been, mentioned in trade rumors, in trade reports, like they're the guys that are going to get moved. Okay. So it would be surprising. Usually it would be surprising to hear anything new from this point on. Right. Or at least in regard to a big name player. It would be surprising to hear, like, with 3 days left, that, hey, such and such is available. But now that the Luka thing happened out of nowhere, that's kind of reset everything when it comes to that, I think. Mr. Level says, Turner is not getting traded due to the Pacers center depth chart. We couldn't interest them in Miles Turner, in Kevon Looney or Trace Jackson Davis. Have you heard Quentin Post is now a starting caliber center in this league, according to Golden State? Get him to the Pacers. Gamer of 2P says, I like Draymond, but if he's traded, I might be upset. It'd be a mix of emotions for sure. It'd be determined on like what's the package you get back for him. Because I'm not against trading Draymond, but like you've still got to get something for him, and he's probably still more valuable to the Warriors than he is elsewhere around the league. Miles Turner said he doesn't want to play for Kerr. Jay Sean Williams. I'm assuming you're taking the piss there. Jay Sean sends Paolo Banchero. Boss says Warriors players in Heel, GP2, Moody, Looney, Waters, Draymond are players that no team wants. But Jay Sean says anything is possible. Since we've been going for an hour here, I'm just going to check Twitter just to see if I don't think I've missed anything. No notifications have come through in terms of Shams tweeting out or anything like that. Oh, God, that's sad. That is sad. I don't even know who Damon Rangula is, but he's got 30K Twitter followers, and he posted a photo of a photo of Luka and LeBron and said, "Hey Warriors, this is how you do 2 timelines." Yeah, it's very fair. Just trying, just seeing if there's anything. Warriors be exploring shit more than Dora. They explore stuff, they never find anything. Josh Hart tweeted, so who are the untouchables in the league? And someone just responded with every player on the Warriors roster. Oh, this is hilarious. The Warriors are on a historic run of missing out on talent. Oh, there's going to be a doco about this. Tim Reynolds, and we're hearing the Utah Jazz aren't done. Only 90 hours left until the deadline. Has Brett Siegel said anything more? Because I don't actually have him on notifications. Do you know what would be hilarious if the Warriors ended up with like Bradley Beal in a 3-team deal? That'd be hilarious. I hate it, but it'd be hilarious. Played well the other day against the Warriors, must be said. I don't know. At least Mike Dunleavy Jr., he can at least say that he's not Nico Harrison, because that's about the only GM who's getting more hate right now. This is a fake one. This is fake from Centel. The Bulls offered Zach LaVine to the Warriors for Brandon Bajemski, but the Warriors rejected it and prefer to keep him out of trade talks. That's funny. Warriors World tweeted, maybe Joe and the front office are about to pull off a move no one saw coming. Scale of 1 to 10, how confident are you in that happening? Oh, my goodness. I just want to know what these other trade pursuits are. Like that, the price for LaVine is just, it's no good. Sorry, back to your guys' comments here. Robbie says it's time to trade Pat Spencer for a start. No, he's untouchable, I think. Can't be giving up Pat. Gamer FTP, Lakers got worse, in my opinion. Possibly in the short term, but like the long-term gain, you just, like, I feel like you got to take that. Miss Level says, Swiper took all our shit away. Gamer F2P says, Mavs got worse, also kind of funny. Yeah, I don't know. You could make arguments for either way for either team. So I don't know. Douglas says, here's the way I said, I think as Warrior fans, we're extremely fortunate we've been able to see Steph and this team create a dynasty. So all of this stuff, as aggravating as it is still amusing. Yeah, I suppose if you zoom out and say, you know, let's look at this over a 10-year period, then we've had it better than any other franchise, any other fan base in the league over the last 10 years. Okay, but we still react to stuff in the moment, and right now things are not good for the Warriors. Jay Sean says Jazz are tanking to get Cooper Flag. So too maybe the Warriors if they aren't buyers here before the deadline. Gamer FTP says saw Kerr talking to Walker Kessler a lot after the Jazz game, so I don't know, man. Jason says trade for Bobby Portis. Oh, that'd be so underwhelming. So underwhelming. Walker Kessler, sounds like Utah just wants so much for him. I just don't think I would. I don't think I'd do that. Anyway, I might finish it up there. I think I've got through everything that I need to say and vented enough frustration, I believe, out of this. Thank you to everyone that has jumped in to the chat, vented your frustration, your suggestions on what the Warriors need to do. To finish off here, I think Zion Williamson, can he save the Warriors? Can he save the trade deadline? Because otherwise, right now, these last couple of hours have been a disaster for Golden State. Nino says we need Bob Myers back. Mike needs to take a hike. Douglas says, I agree. There's nothing wrong with still reacting to what's going on, especially this front office Lakers cold feet, but I just tried not to piss me off too much. Yeah, I'm with you on that. I'm with you on okay, let's zoom out. We've still been very, very fortunate here over the last decade and 15 years to watch Steph Curry play. So, yeah, you got to always put it into context, and it's very frustrating right now, and it's disappointing. But the optimism here is that maybe Mike is cooking something up. Something. Imagine saying this time yesterday, oh, yeah, Luka Doncic is going to be a Laker in the next hour. It was like 4:30 yesterday, I think. Maybe 4 o'clock. 4 o'clock with that Shams tweet yesterday. Sorry, I'm talking my time. It's 3:36 p.m. my time at the moment. And I think it was 4 o'clock yesterday. Shams came through with that tweet that literally changed the world. Literally, everyone thought he was hacked. Oh, it almost feels like a few days have passed since that trade, I think. That's how so much has been going on and so much reaction to it and stuff like that. But it's still less than 24 hours. Boyd says Warriors need size and youth. What about Kessler from Utah? His contract value is low. Yeah, again, it'd be pretty underwhelming. It sounds like the Jazz want multiple firsts. Maddie says, can't believe we missed out on LaVine at that price. Yeah, one first-round pick. One first-round pick. And the players that the Warriors actually would have given up are probably better. If they were going to give up 5 guys, right? So, sorry, I'm just reading a few other tweets here. But if you look at the final trade, is anyone saying that Kevin? Hang on, did they get Kevin Huerter? Yeah. Is anyone saying that Zach Collins, Trey Jones, and Kevin Huerter are better than Kevon Looney, Gary Payton II, Kyle Anderson, Buddy Hield, Dennis Schroeder? Who's the best player of that? 8 players. Who's the best player? I don't even know. Schroeder, Looney. I actually don't know who the best player of that 8 is. But all I do know is there's not that much difference between what Chicago got and what the Warriors could have given in the way of players. And then if the Warriors just had to include 1 first-round pick. Yeah, poor. Jason says we should have gotten Cam Johnson when we had the chance, and we should have gotten a center like Portis, who is 6'10", and a shooter. I suppose if you go and get Bobby Portis, then yeah, okay, it gives you this stretch 5. But his defense obviously isn't great. I don't think he's as talented or a consistent offensive player as Vucevic. So I think I'd still prefer Vucevic. Anyway, thank you very much, guys. We've been going for over an hour. I think this might be the long. Well, this is battling between whether this is the longest stream or the one after Quentin Post scored 20 points. That was a long stream too. But I think this one might have been the most interaction. Thank you to everyone for coming in to provide your comments. People that are watching on the replay, then thank you very much as well. Or if you're listening via the podcast feed. I didn't think I'd be doing a live stream yesterday in reaction to the Luka stuff. I didn't think I'd be doing a live stream today either. But this is what happens with the NBA. You get these blockbuster trades out of nowhere, and the Warriors haven't even been involved in any of it in terms of the trades. And yet there are a lot of implications for Golden State. So who knows? I might literally end this stream, and in 20 minutes' time, the Warriors make a trade. And therefore, I might jump back on at some point. But until then, we'll see what happens in the next 12, 24 hours. I still don't think the Warriors are going to make a move until February. I think we've still got a couple of days here until the Warriors make a move, because I think whatever deal comes forth, I think there's a genuine chance Schroeder's in it. And therefore, again, he can't be traded till the final 24 hours before the deadline. So anyway, we will wait and see. Thank you very much again, everybody. Have a great rest of your day. And the Warriors, we shouldn't forget, they play the Magic tomorrow. I'll be back probably for a live stream after that. And again, if anything happens significantly in the meantime, then I'll jump back on for a stream or something like that. Thanks again, guys.